What is going on, everybody? Good to have you back, because today I get to introduce you to Project Randy Savage. It's a 2007 Honda TRX 450R. Started with just a 2006 frame. They're all the same basically from 2006 up, but then we went and found a kicker subframe stock. Went ahead and powder coated everything after Lone Star got done with their gussets. Then I went and wrapped it with a full Lone Star suspension system. So we have your DC Pro front end, DC Pro spindles, got 0405 hubs on there because they're meant to work with that. Got your LTR conversion steering on there, so that's going to be interesting. Lone Star axle and a DC6 rear linkage. After that, we've got our custom axis front shocks and a PEP rear shock. I'll explain a little bit more about why it's mismatched later, but that's what's on there right now. Had the rear shock redone by Jogaka Suspension. Did a fantastic job cleaning it up and making that thing look beautiful and work well. We're going to find out here in just a little bit. Moving up, we've got our engine. That started out as a 2007 kicker engine, so I didn't have to take any starter or anything off that. It was already set up for kicker, so all I had to do was tear it down and rebuild it back up from the bottom end all the way to the top. We put a polished crank in there done by Crankworks after they rebuilt it. Then I topped it with a 12.8 JE piston as recommended by Jeff at OCP, who also did the headwork on this and the carb. So we have a 42.5mm board carb, and sitting all the way up on top is a web cam. And to finish off the engine, we have a Rossier R5. Rossier, I'll say it how I want. They're durable, they look good, they make good power, and they sound awesome. They check all the boxes for me, so I'm gonna keep running Rossier exhaust as long as I keep building quads, as long as he keeps making exhaust. So this engine combination should be really, really potent. Outside the engine, you guys will see all the purple parts. That's all Illusion Purple, done by my guy over there at Powder Tech 2. Thank you, Tyler. They're just full wrath aluminum parts. I've got these signature Nerf bars. I've got his front bumper and rear grab bar. I love wrath parts. I've been using them for a long time. They're pretty durable and they look killer. So put those back on there. Then as you look up, I've got some actual OEM white plastics from a 2013 450 ER. It was a special edition, so it had the red and blue on there. I felt a little bad peeling the graphics off, but I wanted to put a lot more color into this thing, and I kind of wanted to replicate something that I used to have. So Dirt Fiend went ahead and did all the graphics for me. I sent him a picture of my old 1995 Honda CBR 900RR Fireblade. That's a whole mouthful right there. But I figured Honda always kind of made their quads look bland, so I wanted them to just copy the graphics off of their bikes. That's exactly what he did, and it looks perfect, all the way down to the font and the wings from Honda that they put on their street bikes. Then I've got your Forworks carbon fiber hood, and I also have a rear Forworks carbon fiber number plate, which you can't really see. Roll design stem, stole that off another bike that I have. Went ahead and powder coated it to match this thing. I've got another steering stem sitting for the other quad, so I went with this one. I like these roll design stems because they're durable and they seem to fit just right. On top of that, put on some Phoenix handlebars. I love the bend on these Phoenix handlebars. They always feel comfortable in my hands. So I went with a set of those. They're fantastic. And then of course I went with a Lone Star dual brake line setup, and everything is hooked up to just OEM brakes. I'm not fast enough for Behringer, so I went with OEM, but I did make sure I had fresh pads so that I can at least slow this thing down. Then I've got my Forworks seat cover in the back there. Forworks also knocked out that seat pretty quick for me. It looks fantastic on there. The purple is very hard to match, so we're just gonna have to roll with these different colors of purple, but I think it still looks good on there anyway. Then down, you'll see all the way around, this thing is wrapped with some GPS wheels and GBC Mini Master tires. They're basically a smaller version of their XC Master tire built for MX. So I can't wait to actually get these things out on a track, which hopefully I can get them up to Twisted Lizard here pretty soon and actually go rip these things pretty hard. But that's enough about this machine on the walk around. I'm gonna go ahead and get on this thing and let's go ride it, and then I'll talk a little bit more in depth about a few more things. Let's actually see how this thing feels. This is the do on this machine. So you guys are coming along for the first actual rip. Besides some cruising around the street, just warming the engine, getting it up to temperature and back for break-in process, this is the actual first ride. So as I'm cruising here to kind of get out into my little play area, let me explain the goal that I had in mind with this machine. So what I wanted to do when I set out building this thing was build an ultra lightweight, or as light as I could get it, MX purposed machine. As I've said before, there's no such thing as a magic boat, so you can't really get a quad to do everything well, so I wanted to kind of specialize this one. Now as far as weight goes, my goal was to get down to around 350 pounds, or close to that mark, as close as I could get. So I used titanium parts wherever I thought they would survive. Went real minimal with the wiring harness. As you can see, I just have a kill switch on the left side here. There are no lights, no wiring for it. Jimmy Bortz did the wiring harness, and it literally fits in the palm of my hand. It's got to be only like 7 ounces. So that shaved quite a bit of weight. And then of course a kicker engine. I don't have the starter clutch, I don't have the gear attached to that, I don't have any of the starter gears, I don't have the reducer gear in the engine, so all that rotating mass was also spent. It's gone. So this thing came in right around 386 pounds, fully filled, ready to ride. So I'm sure if I took out all the fuel, the engine oil, transmission fluid, and coolant, I would be right around that 350 pound mark, I'm thinking. But again, I'd have to actually weigh it dry to know. I weighed it fully wet, ready to ride, and didn't even think about it. So here we are, getting this thing up to temperature before I really start ripping on it. Again, it doesn't have much break-in time, maybe 45 minutes of actual run time, which should be okay. Left it on the MX tires, so I could actually rip this thing around the way it's going to, or the way it's meant to be. I got some off-road tires mounted up, some 20-inch rears, because coming up, I'm going to be meeting up with Joe Wilson, and we will be taking this thing to Attica, Indiana for the Badlands Bash on June 8th. So Joe and I will be there. I'll be bringing this thing. That's why I'm so excited to get it done and finished. And then I can bring it up there and rip it. I'll also have my wife's machine as a spare machine. Joe will be coming with. He'll have his Raptor and I think his Scrambler as well. So I can't wait to go up there. If you're up there, come on out, say hi, let's ride. Okay, I think we got this thing warmed up enough. Let's actually go open it up. Coming up on the power lines. Woo! I'll tell you, 18-inch tires kind of rob the top speed. And there's not much grip. Not out here in the sand. I'll tell you what, that Rossier, that R5 has a much deeper pitch than my R4 did. I love that sound. Woo! Oh man, this thing handles so well. So the reason why I went with the Lone Star DC Pro setup was because it was basically a more affordable LTR geometry Walsh front end. LSR makes it for just a little bit less. I've run some Lone Star stuff in the past and I like it, so I decided I'd hit them up and say I'd like to get this DC Pro setup. So it basically changes everything to LTR geometry, especially the high misaligned steering conversion kit that they give you with the tie rods and everything. And it carves so much better than my off-road setup did. That roll design stuff was set up for more desert, so the caster is different. This engine wants to rev so fast. That is so good. man, I can only imagine what this would be like with off-road tires on it, because I chose a 13-tooth front sprocket, 37-tooth rear sprocket combination to get a little bit more wheel speed out of it. So I just dropped one on the rear sprocket. So I still wanted to have good low-end power, but a little bit more wheel speed, and it definitely has that. This is so good! Another thing I should mention, a lot of the parts on here are reused. So the suspension is actually a set of shocks I bought off of a guy in Ohio, actually. Custom Access front shocks and PEP rear. They were already set up for the DC6 rear linkage, so I just had to get them rebuilt, which I highly recommend. Always rebuild something that you get used. But it saved me a little bit of money, and I still got some really nice stuff. However, the fronts, I'm actually running on a borrowed pair of fronts from my buddy Jason. They just happen to be set up for about the same weight, the same style of riding, and they happen to be custom access as well, because he's a true believer in custom access. But these ones have titanium springs, so they weigh almost nothing. It's crazy. Whoops, section. Oh my gosh, this thing just walks across that. This engine revs so freely, it just puts power everywhere, it feels like. Oh, I love this combo, thank you, Jeff. These were some parts recommended by him, so that's what I went with. Let me set up a camera and start goofing around. Oh my gosh, this thing flies amazing. As soon as it gets in the air, it just sits nice and level, and you can control it real easy. Again, I think some of that's the weight, but also the valving and the springs. Well done, Jogaka, for setting up that rear shock. All right, I'm gonna set up the camera for you guys and start ripping around a bit. Let's do that again. Just walking across those. Tight turn. Living up to its name, Randy Savage. Now there's a little bit of squeaking and creaking going on, but that's the powder coat rubbing against each other. Oh man. Well, I hope you guys like this thing as much as I do, as well as it turned out anyway. Hopefully I see some of you guys in Indiana, but that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to bring this thing back and go enjoy a cold beverage. So I'll see you guys in the next video.